Hello and welcome back to the Spacebook on another warm, sunny, blue-skied afternoon. We must be mad because here we are again talking on YouTube and talking about Doctor Who. One moment. Yes, where am I? This is me. Hello, everybody. YouTube land. Yes, the show we put on last week, the live show, went really, really well. That's what they call a boomer error there, to leave your phone on and not put it on silent. So I'll turn that off now before you lot think I'm the rudest man on YouTube. Yes, so last time went really, really well. We got the mega geek Ian David Diaz in, if you remember, and we had a bit of a chat through Doctor Who, all the recent rumours about when it may start filming again or when it may not. Oh, everything went up in the air. And yes, between us, we didn't really find anything really that was worth talking about. A lot of those rumours are just rumours and just newspapers and fan sites sort of pushing things around. But during that conversation, other things sort of went up in the air, really. And Ian, as he is wont to do, as a filmmaker and a director and a writer, he started picking away at other more recent Doctor Who. Some Doctor Who that I said that I wouldn't talk about again, but well, why not? Because it has been 2 years. Yes, that's why we're here. It's been 2 years since the dawn of this latest new era of Doctor Who under Chris Chibnall, starring Jodie Whittaker. And yeah, I thought we could go back to it and take up Ian's suggestion at getting really deep into that first episode. Just if you haven't caught us before, you might wonder what's all this about and who I am. Well, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks and the host of the Type 40 podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network. We're on a bit of a break at the moment, but the last episode came out about a week and a half ago. That's myself and starry-eyed girl Sarah Graham talking to Kenny Smith from Big Finish about all things Big Finish, really. It was like the last day of term on this. That was a nice, fun conversation. Go and check that out. I'll be plugging that again later on. But this show, Type Over 40, is a before show, an after show, and an in-between show to all of the stuff we do on the podcast. So it's all a bit free form. We never really know what's going to happen. And even more so this time because we're going to have an open chat and we are live. Now, he is back. Yes, the future showrunner, perhaps, of Doctor Who, the mega runner. Yes, Ian David Diaz, the mega geek.
I wish.
Notice I've blamed you already.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Is that a new cap again?
Well, this is from Julie. I don't know if she's in the chat, but I thought I'd wear it because she sent it to me. Yeah, all the way from the States. She didn't really like me wearing the New York one, so she got me a Mets cap. I don't know who the Mets are, and I know nothing about that sport. But hey, I'll wear it for her. So there you go.
It's very early to go to the chat, but yes, if you know who the Mets are, because I have no idea, I'm not into sport, then let us know in the comment section. Fill us in about all that. What are we missing? What's that all about? And yeah, let Ian know what he's wearing. But you are wearing something. You are definitely wearing Doctor Who.
Oh yes, Gallifrey, the University of Gallifrey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I can learn how to be a Time Lord, I guess. Oh, wait a moment. It's not there anymore. It got destroyed. I want my money back.
People can't check your credentials, can they? They really, really can't. But that's fantastic what you're wearing there. But I believe we've got somebody else about to join us who you could say has gone a couple of steps further. Yes, so welcome to the channel. Our friend, this is his first time on the show. I understand this is his first ever live stream, but it's definitely not his first time behind a mic. Barnaby Jago, welcome to Type Over 40.
Thank you very much for having me. Hello. And yes, Gallifrey is gone again.
Yes.
Second time's the charm, obviously. So,
breaking news, everybody, breaking news. Yes, so we can't possibly get into the meat of this without referring to your glorious tank top. Do you want to tell us about that? How did you come by that? And
I bought
do you go out in public in it?
Oh no, I wish. I'm not nearly that brave. No, I bought this at the 50th anniversary special back in 2013 over at the XL, and had an amazing time. Actually, where I first met Sylvester, but normally did not wear it when I actually met him because. I bought it afterwards, and I think that I could have been so different to go and do that and go and see Sylvester wearing this because no one obviously has ever done that before. So, although I also met David Warner as well, who
I love David Warner. David Warner's awesome.
Well, he's playing the Unbound Doctor in the Big Finish ones. I mean, he has been for a while now, but
wow,
amazing, lovely man, and lovely
Star Trek and Doctor Who. Can't get any better than that, can you?
Double trouble. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Multiple times on Star Trek, and probably the best Doctor Who we've never had, I would say, or certainly up there, one of the best of them. Talking of which, you're an actor and you're a voiceover guy, aren't you, Barnaby? That's the bread and butter, and that's the day job. But you've been a Doctor Who fan pretty much all your life, I understand.
Pretty much, probably since I was like 11 or 12, because I used to catch them on UK TV Gold, and when they were on back in the Middle Ages, it seems now. And our first ever Doctor, actually, weirdly enough, was William Hartnell. And watching his kind of stuff, it was An Unearthly Child, the first ever one I ever saw.
Wow.
And weirdly after that one, then I saw the Peter Cushing movie, which I was kind of like, hang on a minute.
Not confusing at all.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to talk to somebody for a while whose first Doctor was William Hartnell. Yeah. But I'd sort of thought it may be somebody who was in their sort of early to mid 60s,
70s.
I forget that there are people such as yourself, younger people than I, who did come to it in the 90s and found it all on cable, and that it stayed with you just the same way that it stayed with us, even if you were sort of being hit by all these seven faces all at once. Oh, let's have a look and see what's it. Oh, the waistcoat's going down well. Yes, we've got Kelly in the chat already.
Hello, Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
And yes, she's here. I love your take.
Oh, thank you, Story.
Barnaby. Yeah, that's our good friend Sarah Graham, of course, who's been poorly for a little while. She's got a bad throat, but she's here in spirit and in text form. Who else have we got? Who else is here? We have Daniel Leach.
Daniel's here, yeah.
Sarah there. Yep. And and Lord Thoth. I do. God, I can actually say that now. Hey,
yeah.
There's several other people.
Problem being is here.
Problem being. Yes, hello, mate. There's another thesp, another actor, another full-voiced actor there in the chat.
Welcome.
Good to see you all. And yes, we're comparing knitting patterns already here, Barnaby. This is going down very, very well. Problem being says, my granny once knitted me one of those, and Sylvester himself said to me,
"Oh, she sounds amazing, brilliant."
Oh God,
love it.
Yes. So here we are. Let's get into it, Ian. This is your idea.
What? I know.
Why?
No. Look, I thought. It's been 2 years, okay, right?
It's been 2 years.
And I've only seen this episode once when it was broadcast, and quite frankly, I didn't like it. But then, if people do like it, I say this again, it's fine. I don't have anything against you guys if you like it, but for me, I didn't like it, and I wanted to revisit again so that I could see whether my first thoughts on it was right or wrong. And I want to look at each scene and figure out why it didn't work or why it worked, and that's what I suggested that we do to Dan and poor Dan.
Is it convinced you, Barnaby? He's still smiling.
I'm still smiling so far.
Yes, because this is, let's not forget, it has nearly been 2 years, and I watched this at the time. I watched it twice because the Type 40 podcast had only really just started at that point. And this was the first proper episode we were reviewing. And it was all really quite intense. Nobody really knew what to expect. I think whether you had your misgivings about it going in or whether you were excited, nobody really knew what we were going to get, did we? It's not, that's not unreasonable to not be sort of hyped up. There were people out there, of course, who were very, very hyped up and who I'm certain would have accepted it no matter what. God bless them. That's absolutely fine too. Yeah. But the episode first aired on the 7th of October, 2018. So, although it isn't quite the week, we're not far off. And I talked about it originally on episode 9 of Type 40. And I'm going to drop the link to that in the description and in the comment section afterwards. So, yes, you can hear what I said, because I went back and I listened to my original review just to see if my mind had changed, what I made of it then. So yes, I'll put that in the chat as well. I'll try not to go over the same ground, but yes, it was a very, very intense time. Jodie Whittaker had been announced as the 13th Doctor well over a year earlier, which was, that's generally the pattern. It was during the Wimbledon fortnight, wasn't it? They dropped, that's right. They dropped it out in a little short video directed by Jamie Charles, who directed this episode. And in time, we got these posters everywhere, didn't we? Which were, I think that's quite nice, quite inoffensive, and kind of, I think, probably struck the right note. Yeah. I've never been too keen on the logo, but I don't hate it either. You know, I'm not one. You know, I don't rail against that too much.
You can't beat Sylvester's personally.
You can't.
It's still my favorite after all these years.
Yeah. So although I didn't really know what to expect, and I'd got my doubts because I've always been against a female doctor. I think it's completely unnecessary. I thought it was unnecessary before. 3.5 years after a casting, I think it was unnecessary now. In fact, I know it was. But of course, it did come to pass, and there was a point, certainly for me, Ian, where you know, particularly as the podcast was kicking off, where I thought, well, okay, you know, this show has been good to me. Yeah. It's now perhaps time for me to sort of invest back in it and place my faith, particularly in an actress who I'd always enjoyed in other things. Yeah. And you know, I'd really enjoyed Chris Chibnall's Broadchurch show, and I even enjoyed his Camelot show, which was it was mainly because Eva Green was in there doing lots of terrible things. But yes, I thought it was quite entertaining, and I thought it was quite sweet-natured. Yeah, it didn't really appear to be. It wasn't anything that startled the horses, and none of Chibnall's other stuff had been until Broadchurch really had not made a creative stamp. Sorry, Ian, what's that, mate?
I said I didn't like Broadchurch.
You weren't that keen. No. So how did you feel about Chris Chibnall in the run up to this? Had you heard of him, and were you
yeah,
sort of in the grey
of course areas? I've heard of him, but you know, I everybody was raving about Broadchurch. I remember I saw the first 2 episodes, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. But then again, I'm not into. I don't like British dramas because I always find them stale, and they're all one-toned and everything. But that's just me. A lot of people love British dramas, but I don't like them personally. I always think they're void of character, always looking at the dark side of life. You know, there's nothing, you know, uplifting or anything like that about their dramas. Even in the darkest dramas in America, they do have levity and they do have humor to you know, lift the thing, lift it. But British dramas, they don't. Now the last good British drama, in my opinion, right, apart from what's that detective's name on BBC One?
Strike?
Luther. Apart from Luther, was Cracker. Do you remember Cracker?
Yeah, Cracker. I rewatched it all. I rewatched all that when lockdown kicked off. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
You don't remember it, Barnaby? You don't remember it?
I don't think. No, maybe before my time. When was it?
It was Robbie Coltrane. He played
It keeps Robin. Barnaby, as a big Doctor Who fan, had you heard of Chris Chibnall before? Had you been aware of him running up to this?
No, absolutely was not aware of him at all. I mean, I wasn't even aware of Stephen Moffat before he sort of like came into, you know, with the Empty Child and things like that. And Moffat, I was not really the biggest fan of Russell T Davies, though. That is a hugely contentious point, I know.
It is.
Yes.
And,
I was always. And Moffat himself, I mean, his episodes for me, I would always make sure I was there to watch them live because I was at school actually when I was at school when T Davis was like fully like showrunner, and I was there for the Weeping Angels, the Empty Child, Silence in the Library. I mean, like amazing ones where I was just like, I felt with Russell, it just wasn't. Because I was always going in with a classic view anyway. I was always going to relate. You've
grown up watching all the classic stuff. Yeah,
that's the thing. And even it's a continuation, the new show, but it's in a way a reboot as well. It was always going to be different. I mean, when I first watched the movie with Paul McGann, which I love, even though it does have some problems.
I do like it.
I love it. But the first ever kind of like, you know, kiss, you know, with a companion. And for me, you know, after seeing, you know, Hartnell and Troughton and, you know, Colin Baker, who is actually one of my favorite doctors, another contentious issue, was like, I was just like, what is this blasphemy that is this going on here? It just will not do. And it was, so obviously they were going to carry on with that. And I just felt that was, and I have to give T. Davis, though, some credit. You know, he did put it out to a wider audience and brought in, you know, other people, not just, you know, sci-fi nerds like me. So that was great that he was there at the beginning. And then just Moffat came in and just like blew me away. He had some interesting episodes as well, but he was so totally me. And then I heard about Chibnall coming in, and I had no idea about it, but I thought I'd give him a chance. And it's just, it just seems so by the numbers. It just seems so by the numbers, so kind of like flat. It just doesn't hit the same way Moffat did for me. That again is probably just like a personal thing again. But
I think it's all to do the writing.
Well, his episodes leading up to this, some people had been greatly offended by them, and people would talk about them with a great deal of sort of derision. Episodes like The Power of Three and 42, which they didn't particularly offend me. They weren't what I'd call standout episodes. But I never, when it got to the point where I was watching a whole series, I would never skip them. For example, I would take them in, and maybe they wouldn't stay with me for very long, but I didn't hate on them either. Dinosaurs on the Spaceship, that was another one of Chris Chibnall's.
I quite sort of enjoyed that because it was something different again. I mean, 42 I've watched only once, and I have no reason to go and watch it again at all. It's just but you have those throwaway ones. I mean, that's what Delta and the Bannerman's for. It's a throwaway one. They obviously didn't have any money that kind of day, and was just I mean, they probably did, but it was just something. We've got this really nice place to film in Wales. Let's get Sylvester on a motorcycle and get him driving around for about 40,000 hours, and that's where I kind of thought with 42. I mean, they've always been there, but maybe not the guy who did one of the most throwaway episodes to run the show. I mean, that's all
the Power of Three wasn't too bad. I think that the hate's grown because of what he did with this era.
Yeah,
through those episodes. Yeah.
Well, I think some of it was people out there because obviously Chris Chibnall had been in the fandom for quite a long time as well.
It was a huge fan.
Paul Cornell, he'd been a big fan in the 80s. It was part of events. Of course, he'd been on the TV that's notorious, but more than that, he'd been actively involved in fandom. And people within the community, maybe some people watching now actually knew this man personally. And of course, that's not for me to say. I've never met him. I'm sure he's perfectly nice. But people do have their opinions based on personal experience, and stuff like that does travel. And I had wondered if let's say some of the reviews to the previous episodes, they were really quite sort of mean-spirited, and I just wondered if some of it was just personal beef. So the way I looked at it was that this guy had made a big statement with Broadchurch. It had an ambience of its own. It had a flavour that was unlike anything that I'd seen on British TV. In the same way, Barnaby, you were just talking about Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who's. That's what he did. He'd done that. He'd stamped on something. Really, I mean, perhaps not hard at first, but over time, marked it out as being different from Russell's work. And I felt that's what needed to happen again. And people told me at the time, don't trust Chris Chibnall. He's not right for this. And I was, no. He thought it was great.
I was a bit like that.
The thing is, though, if somebody destroys something that you love, like for instance, right, I will never watch Knives Out, directed by Roundhead Ryan. I would never watch that because of what he did with Star Wars. So I guess a lot of people, wail on the Power of Three and the ones he wrote because of what he did with this genre. So, this
can't help but switch people off, I think, to some extent. I mean, particularly if I'm fine. I was fine with that until creatives started calling fans things like man babies. To me, that's not how you speak to your audience. Charlotte Cheers in the chat. Hello, Charlotte. Good to see you.
Hello, Charlotte.
Chibs was filler. So why he got the showrunner, we will never know. Well, we talked about this a little bit last week, and the truth of the matter was, well, I say truth. How it appears is that BBC didn't know who else to ask. They Chris Chibnall,
they're going to ask me.
Chris Chibnall has made an international splash with Broadchurch. It had done very, very well. They needed somebody who could showrun on that international stage. So he'd done that very recently. He'd worked with Dick Wolf, who, as I've said before, was and probably still is one of the most powerful men in world TV. So you've got those two things. And then you've got the fact that he was a massive Doctor Who fan. And to be fair to the BBC, that had worked for them before. Both Russell and Stephen had delivered based on those credentials. In fact, less, really.
Just to come back to what you were saying about the whole sort of blaming the fan base. I mean, that's something I've just sort of recently that always worked so well with TV shows, hasn't it? Blame the fans. You just don't get it.
Yeah, it's a ludicrous.
It seems to be something a lot more common with TV.
Yeah.
Well, in the run up to this, when Jodie had been announced as the Doctor for a few weeks, and she put out a little statement, quite a soft statement, saying, to the fans, people who've been watching for a long time, saying, don't be afraid of my gender. I really want to play this part. I want to entertain you. I think it was quite a generous quote, and that won me over a little bit. I mean, oi, you sexist watching. It wasn't like that. It was a bit more sort of, look, I get it. I watch telly too. I know why you like stuff the way you like it, but I'm not going to break this. I just want to have some fun, and I hope I entertain you. And I thought it was a reasonable enough statement. But somewhere in the 12 months between that point and the show actually appearing in the first trailers, I mean, that trailer where she breaks the glass ceiling, absolutely ridiculous. That had started to turn me off, and I'd gone like that. I'd been convinced. I'd been brought back in when I saw the actors who they'd employed around her. I thought that was a good move. When I saw her costume, I went the other way completely.
I hated the costume,
and so I was literally throughout the entire journey from production and from announcement to making it to the screen, I was going like that the entire time. It was like being on the bridge of the Enterprise. So by the time this episode aired, I was kind of seasick, Barnaby. I genuinely was. So let's have a quick look. We've got a picture up here. This is what we're talking about. Of course, it's the woman who fell to Earth. The first episode of the 11th series of the British science fiction television programme Doctor Who. It was written by the new head writer, showrunner Chris Chibnall, directed by Jamie Childs, and first broadcast on the 7th of October 2018. The story focused on a group of people who come across a new alien threat all together in Sheffield, don't they? And they band together with the recently regenerated Doctor who's been separated from her time machine, the TARDIS. The group sort of get to know one another, and they start to question this strange stranger.
Tim Shaw.
They find themselves in danger, and they discover that until really quite recently, there was this sort of hunt going on intergalactically, that a human being has found himself right in the middle of this sort of unwitting character who I only watched a couple of nights ago, and I've forgotten his name already. But
Tim Shaw.
What was the guy's name? Was it Carl? The guy on the crane, was it Carl?
Carl. His name was Carl.
So that's the general principle of it. It was the first episode to be broadcast on a Sunday night, which I'll be honest with you guys, that didn't sit too well with me either. No. And but obviously new start, and that willingness to be entertained and to be on board
and to be different
was there. It sincerely was.
It is very, very different. It feels like a different show, which I was very, very happy about, actually, because it's what it's about. It's what having a new Doctor and having a new showrunner is all about, and it is different. I mean, even like I was just thinking, I really like. It sounds a bit boring, but I really love the cinematography.
Yeah, that was
and the music as well. I found myself liking the music. This is. I'm sorry, but I do
music
quite like the music.
No,
it has an atmosphere. It gives an atmosphere for me. I quite like it.
Bad atmosphere.
Barnaby, I'm with you completely. And,
good man. Thank you.
And without saying too much, because obviously we have just started this chat of the whole thing. The freshness of this hit me at the time. I think the direction is absolutely beautiful. That scene included, poor Toast and Cole's face, that scene included. And like yourself, I loved this music. Sagan Akinola's music seemed so different.
If you can't hum it after the episode, it's rubbish. I'm sorry.
I can hum it. I can hum it.
I can have it. Look.
Ian,
no, it's dun.
I could. Doctor's signature, especially her actual theme, I could, and it got in my head because I rewatched this a couple of nights ago, and it did get in my head again. But again, before I pass it back to Ian, I'll echo what you just said. What I felt originally at the time, which you can hear in the episode in the description, what I felt originally at the time, the memory hasn't cheated. Coming across it and watching it again now, just 2 years later, I think that freshness is still there and those production values are still there. And my biggest question about the whole thing, and this was scene one, is what the beep happened to this show in just a few short episodes, because this feels fresh and it feels alive. Ian, you disagree?
I totally disagree. So the first scene is Ryan on his computer on YouTube.
11 likes on YouTube.
19. He's got 19 likes.
Just called Hey as well. I mean, that might be quite hard to search for.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
YouTube.
See,
it's more than I get a lot of weeks, but yeah, fair play, Ryan.
He's on YouTube going, "This is the greatest woman I've ever met."
Right. Excuse me, I'll step in there. Subscribe to the channel, please. Like and if you're going to be here for the duration, at least throw us a like and subscribe to the channel.
Like and subscribe.
Carry on.
All right. So basically, it starts off with he's got 19 views. He's talking about the best woman he's never known, and we knew he wasn't talking about the doctor. I knew exactly. Well, he wasn't talking about the doctor. But as I said, I agree with you guys. The best thing about this episode is the photography. The photography is really good. The direction's so-so. I'd say there's a big difference between the director of photography and the actual director himself. They both do separate jobs. So the photography was really good. And this scene especially was really good, especially the location that they shot. It was like looking down at the town and all that stuff. It was absolutely terrific. Anyway, so we have the sun setting, which is really good. And he's trying to ride a bike and he falls off it and he refuses to call Graham Granddad. I don't blame him.
I like Graham.
I think this screen grab is a metaphor for the entire Joe Jessica era.
Yeah,
I really do. Yes.
Right.
I see with the stuff with Graham, because people warmed to Bradley Walsh's Graham instantly, didn't they? They
loved him.
Yeah.
You too, Barnaby?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I think
look at this shot. This shot's great. But I always wonder about this in films, right? Why did they have characters that sit at the edge of something which is like a thousand thing drop? I wouldn't do it, would you?
I'm such a pussy. I'm really scared of heights, Barnaby. Just looking at that, I just lost all feeling in my legs looking at that, watching it the other night.
And where would you go cycling up there, particularly if you can't ride a bike as well? I mean, it's a bit dangerous.
Sheffield, Sarah will tell you. Sarah lives in Sheffield. There are loads of estates around there. You could ride around to your heart's content.
Do you know? I was watching. Was it Battle Angel? What's it called? That film. Alita. Battle. There's a scene in it where both of them are walking. They're like in a high building and looking down at town. They're walking like they don't care. Like there's a 1,000 pound and they drop and they're still walking around. Anyway, that kind of scares me. I don't know why they do that in movies and stuff like that. Anyway, so. Basically, he gets angry and he throws his bike because he can't balance on it. And Graham tells him he has to go and get it because they're not going to get it, and their train's leaving in 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And we lead up to what's his name? Ryan. Is it Ryan? It's Ryan, isn't it? Ryan seeing these squares just hanging with no support whatsoever, looking very, very alien. And what does he do? He touches it. Now, would you touch it? Would you touch it? Would I touch it?
I think I would run away. Although it is a very Ryan thing to do. His emotional range. Cybermen. It's when you're being outacted by a Cyberman. I should be harmed. The actor is actually a very, very good actor. This is the thing. He can do really, really well. There's a scene. I think it's in the Spiders one with the Donald Trump wannabe. Where it's he's talking to his father, and he's acting really, really well in that scene. And I'm just like, what happened between that and when you're seeing Tim Shaw or when you're maybe it's just like acting against somebody that's really there.
It's
like
bad script.
CGI,
Another thing that hit me about this, as things do sort of continue, we get introduced to Yaz. This scene kind of tying into what you were just saying, Barnaby, because obviously we're now in 2020, we're 20 episodes of this on, and we've seen, we've lived with these characters for a couple of years, and we've seen the public apathy set in and apathy from the actors. But watching these early scenes and all that stuff, like you were just saying about Tosin Cole's performance as Ryan. While I was rewatching this, I struggled to believe that these were the same actors in the same roles. They were actually moving, walking, talking to one another, relate to one another, rather than just standing in the background, saying fuck all for half an hour, and then sort of walking behind somebody. You can see them engaged by the material, and I feel partly vindicated by this because for 2 years I have sort of been softly standing up for both of these actors, Mandip Gill in particular, because you can see the want and the hunger in both of their performances at this point.
She's doing her She's working so hard.
She tried.
I believe so. I believe so. So, Ian, seeing these, this is where we start to see the cast come together. The rot hasn't set in yet.
Well,
but is what's on the page? Is that letting them down already, or is it?
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. Logic, for instance, as I said, Ryan touches the floating squares, which anyone with their right mind would go, that's alien. I'm not going anywhere near that. And then that mushroom thing turns up, and he touches that. So the logic is thrown. Look. When you're writing a script, right, you have to have logic in your script, right? You can't have the character doing something that they wouldn't do. I mean, you wouldn't do it. Would you do it? Would you touch something that's floating? And you would run, wouldn't you? Be like, bollocks to this, and you'd be out of there. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't even touch it.
I'd be halfway across the city by then.
Right, that's
running my arse off. Yeah,
at the time, I said you can say what you like. That's the beauty of having a small channel. Say what you like, gentlemen. But the truth is, yes, I mean there are many people, particularly the younger ones, and I think that's what we sometimes forget. Even though Toast and Cole's probably about 30, Mandy Gill is like 32, 33, but at the time they were playing the audience identifiable characters. More to the point, they were playing the characters, even though they weren't children. They were playing the characters that the children were going to identify with, and most children probably would touch that. And I think that's why. No
child will touch that if it appeared in front of you.
I think
a child would. But should Ryan really be touching it?
Exactly.
Ryan's not a child,
of all the people.
Instead of calling the police, or he does eventually call the police after he's touched it, idiot. It just doesn't make any sense. All right, so let's just go past that. That didn't make any sense, right? Okay. And then we introduced to Yaz.
Yes, we were.
What is it?
Remember when she was supposed to be a police officer? Again,
exactly.
I didn't recognise this either, because as Problem being in the chat there, Point says she was supposed to be a police officer. Yeah. I've forgotten all about that too, but sure enough, here she is on the job.
Why isn't she taking charge? Why isn't she just do something, Yaz? Do something.
Exactly. So, she's doing this dispute between both of them, and she resolves it by saying, you pay for the window and what is it? And I don't have to write up a report, whatever, which is a good scene. I thought that was, and also the photography in this scene's really good as well. Looking down at that thing. I thought it was really well shot. Really well shot. It's a shame that it's wasted in this episode, but hey, such is life. But she when I first saw her, I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. Yeah. She might be a really interesting character, but we all know what happened, right? So there you go.
She was very interested in her own hand there, yes. But
yeah.
This is what I mean about
teacher drama school.
this as well as apart from doing this, Peter Capaldi style.
Exactly.
But this is part of that generosity that we have to extend as viewers, though. And as I was speaking about earlier on, you have to sort of take it that the actors are there for a reason, that they audition for these roles, and that they're properly engaged with it. And at this point, I was quite taken with all of the companions, as people will hear on the episode. If you play that back, I was taken with all of them.
Really? A friend of mine actually auditioned for the part of Yaz. And she got up to the I won't say name, but she got up to the final ones. She told me, and I was amazed, because I'm watching this now, seeing my friend playing Yaz, and I'm going like, maybe it's just me, but my own bias, but my friend's so much better. But that's just me thinking, my mate, she's a fantastic. So.
Yeah, you probably think you had a lucky escape now, though.
She can't watch it, because this was a big deal for her. She's a huge Doctor Who fan, and she said, I can't watch it, and I'll watch it for you. And then after the first season, you dodged a bullet there.
Okay, so what's his name? Ryan touches that mushroom thing and it's cold, right? So we've established that it's cold. That will come to play in the rest of the episode, and you'll see what I mean when we come up to that bit what I'm talking about. So we move. Sorry, I'm trying to move along the episode. So we move to this scene.
I'll keep the slideshow coming. Here we are. So what's happened with Graham and the missus at this point, and Grace?
Well, Graham is a weak male. And and his wife is taking the mickey out of him in the train, and suddenly the train stops because of lightning or something. I don't know why it stops, but yeah.
Because the plot needs it to.
Yes, and it's 7 minutes.
There's a lot of that in this. A lot of
yeah. And it's 7:04 minutes into the episode. We haven't seen the Doctor yet, which is annoying when you think about it. Right?
So when we do see it, let's say fine, it is quite a long period of time. They do keep you waiting, and boom, she's up. But they announce that she's there in a very unusual way, don't they, Ian?
She actually falls into the train, which should be really dead, but and regenerated into maybe a guy. I don't know. But she
wasn't off a satellite dish this time. So
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Just a train.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's this
not grassy knoll.
I call it a cable monster, but I can't remember what it was called. But it was just kind of cable monster, and she pulls something out, and she electrocutes it, and it kind of goes back, whatever. That thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Again, this scene, all is sort of fine with me at this point. I think it's all still nicely shot. As you know, Bradley's character is the comic relief. He was certainly, and I think that Sharon D. Clarke as Grace, I think she's a wonderful actress. I really enjoyed her in this. Yeah. I know she's returned to the role a couple of times, but I haven't been charmed by that. She looks bored. Increasingly bored every time she comes back, but they do. So does Jodie Whittaker. I recently watched her in The Sing Detective when she was like 30 years younger. I just think she's great. But and I do like their relationship in this. But this is where the writing and some of the dialogue starts to sort of give itself away. I feel, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, before this scene, Yaz meets up with Ryan, and they discover that they knew each other when they were in school, and they touch the mushroom thing, and it's cold, so that's established. And then basically, he gets a call from his nan saying that the train has stopped, whatever. And so that plot line, so that makes them get into the police car to drive towards the train, so they can meet up with Graham and. It's his nan, isn't it? It's not his mum. It's his nan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's his grandma.
Yeah.
You'd be forgiven for forgetting that. Yeah, fair.
So they get on the train right after Jodie has zapped the cable monster, and the cable monster zaps them all, doesn't it? Zaps Carl. It zaps all of them.
Yeah.
And that leads up to something else as well. And everybody's listening to the Doctor, which I don't understand, right? So this is another thing that doesn't make any sense to me. So this girl falls through the train. None of them question how she survived. Everybody's listening to her for some unknown reason.
It was as if she's fallen off the curb waiting for a bus.
Yeah, exactly. And also another thing that annoyed me. Right, and this is why I don't like the music, is when she fell through the train and she stood up, they played dun 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 dun. I'm like, no, that is not the Doctor's theme. That is the theme of the show. It's like getting Captain Kirk and playing the Star Trek theme every time you see him. No, that is not his theme. What?
In their defense, they have played the Doctor Who film in the theme in the classic era when the Doctor's been working on. They have gone dun dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, but that's
so they have done that in the classic series.
That's not indicating.
I mean, I'm the least person to play devil's advocate here, but that's one sort of thing there. But this whole train scene, it's just
to me that didn't work. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I don't like the music in this because basically it's just noise. It's not music, as far as I'm concerned. So
I hate it now. 2 years on, the other stuff he's done. Again, not in this episode. I think it's absolutely fine. But the stuff he's doing now, I get the impression that. And I've bookmarked Sagan's SoundCloud to hear his other stuff. I do genuinely. I love your music, Sagan. But on this job, just like everybody else, the guy seems half asleep.
Yeah. And Jodie's accent is the first the thing. When I first watched it, I was like, oh no, that accent. And then the second time I watched it, I went, oh no, that accent. So I don't really like her accent. I think she should have just. What's it called? Barnaby? RP?
Received pronunciation.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Okay, so she should have done some of that because it is very, very grating. And I know a lot of people agree with me on her accent, that her accent's very, very grating. Whatever. And she's taken completely charge of the situation when it should be Yaz.
Myself,
exactly.
Myself and my lovely little sister out there, lovely Sarah Graham, we had a bit of a falling out a couple of years ago over the accent.
Oh, did you?
Hello, sweetheart. But yes, she said to me about the accent, because I and in all seriousness, myself with the accent, I don't like the Doctor to have any regional accent. I don't. They should have one.
Yeah.
I think the Doctor's from another planet. They are not us. He is not one of us. And the more they humanize it, the more they humanize the part, and now pinpoint to a region, the more the character becomes something else.
Well, that started with Chris, didn't it?
Yeah,
it started with Chris.
Yeah, I think I love what Chris did, but I think that was
same here. I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, lots of planets have a north and all that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And they played it nicely with the into the script and everything. That was written in a very flippant way. Therefore, I accepted it. But to do it over and over and over again, now to the point. See, because what's happened is it's been taken to the extreme. Oh, here she is. Thank you. It's been taken to the. It's been taken to the extreme now, and with everything else coming from different, I think it's really broken down the character, and it's sort of led to this ridiculous situation where everybody is demanding to see themselves in this character. It's all, it's played into what I believe is a major problem plaguing the entire show. It's me that's going down the rabbit hole now, everybody. Me.
But so hold on. So Jodie tells Yaz she shouldn't report what she's just seen. And it's like, do you know any policeman, whether it be a woman or a man, with something like that happens, they would, if somebody says don't report it, they won't report it. Do you know anyone like that? Anyone?
also the lack of empathy. I mean, someone has died. I mean, granted, it was the train driver who didn't have a main role or any kind of speech in the whole thing. But just they're more. I mean, one thing I'm not the biggest fan of Jodie's Doctor, mostly because of this. She just keeps on apologizing the entire time. Oh, I'm so sorry you had to see this. Or I'm so sorry that I couldn't stop them. And I'm just like, it's not really your fault. You don't have to apologize constantly. Yeah. But with this first body where Jodie says that you don't report the body, they were just like.
But you would ring the station and you'd say we need to train people out here because the train's stopping the tracks and there's people gonna. You would report that, wouldn't you? But she doesn't do anything. Like a plank. She listens to this woman she hardly knows. Yeah. Right. Well, going, what's this? A tang and all that rubbish. You're like, no. You'd be like, no. Well, you'd be on the phone going, you shut up. I'm going to report this. You sit there. I think the real reason why it's there is kind of what you were saying earlier on, Barnaby. I think it's there for a mechanical reason. I think it's there to help Jodie out in her performance because it's a shorthand for the kind of thing, and it's an indicator actually of what would come. But it's a shorthand for what David Tennant's Doctor used to do. That's sort of where he'd look at a person who was in a deep state of loss or distress and say, "I'm so sorry," and he'd say it very, very convincingly. He would, yeah.
And they give it to her right away. And if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't rewatched many of these episodes that often, forgive me. I've only got so many brain cells. But they do keep doing that. And just like a lot of things in the performance, they're giving her these rails to hold on to, as if they haven't got. I don't know whether it's that she hadn't got enough faith in her own ability, or if Chris Chibnall didn't have as much faith in her as he appears to. But it really doesn't help the character, and that, I think that's why it's so glaring. Actually, Barnaby, you're right.
Well.
It's so glaring, and it's tossed around all over the place, and it means has no meaning. I mean, I haven't rewatched. I've rewatched this one, but I haven't rewatched a lot of the other ones. Just because every time she says it, I just have to take a shot of something.
But you know what?
Really sorry.
Life's too short at the end of the day, mate.
You know what really annoys me, right? In this scene, Jodie tells them, "Look, stick with me, and you'll get answers." And all of them are like, okay.
She fell through the ceiling.
Exactly. Why would you listen to this woman? Stick with me, guys, and I'll get you some answers. Like, what the fuck? I want to go home. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't be there. What the anyway.
And this geezer, though, this is another one. This guy gets a couple of scenes. But he gets polished off really quite quickly as well.
Yeah.
And this is where the plot really starts
you're jumping though, because this happened. Because we have to explain, they went to the place where they saw the mushroom thing and it was gone, Right, so Jodie convinces everyone, including the person who has to be in charge, Yaz, to get in the police car and drive to that place where they saw.
She is now totally in charge now. Yeah.
Can you not see how bad this script is? It's so bad.
It's all shorthand. It's Doctor Who shorthand.
It's rubbish.
That's what it is. And although guys like that, people have got a couple of lines and then get bumped off. Again, that's another calling card of Doctor Who. But Chris Chibnall, there's so many indicators of things that were perfectly harmless on the night, on day one, and that now 20 episodes, because you can't really view this in isolation anymore. In fact, that's why I want to come back to it. This is another indicator of what Chris Chibnall would do over and over and over again. And when he brings the agenda to the front, and we've got people sort of walking on from one side of the stage going, hello, I'm this week's homosexual, and then getting gunned down 30 seconds later. There is a writer exposed as somebody who can't develop characters, who is, in my view, the very thing that he accuses some of the audience of. I think he's probably quite prejudiced.
And this is certainly
It's very, 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 very peculiar. Let's have a quick look in the chat and let's see what other people. Oh yes, hello, Gene. Good to see you. Looks like a.
Oh, there you are.
I read the start of the comment. I didn't read it. It does look a bit like a great big turd. You're absolutely right.
It does.
Yes, they would have made. I don't know what a Hershey's Kiss tastes like, but I hope they taste a little better than they look.
But okay, so this comes into play, right? Because Ryan touched it; it was freezing. So, how did what do I call him? Box ticking big ears man. How did he? how did he pick up the mushroom and put it in the van with his friend? How did he do that? If it's freezing, how did he have a forklift or something?
There was two of them,
and there were two of them.
They had a tarpaulin.
Oh, they did.
Could definitely have been that. I have to draw the line at going through this frame by frame, but I think this is a great comment here from Charlotte. Remember when Amy literally hit 11 with a baseball bat and handcuffed him? She wouldn't just follow the doctor.
Badass. Such a badass thing to do. I fell in love with that character straight away after she did. I'm like, this is a brilliant companion to have.
Yeah, that should have been Yaz. Attitude to all of this should have been,
she's got cuffs. She's a bleeding copper.
She's actually a proper copper, not when Amy wasn't. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point. Oh God. Yes, so.
But one more thing, right? So when they go to see where the mushroom thing was, and it was gone. Yeah. There's all that stuff that they say for no reason. Oh yeah, Ryan's got dyspraxia, whatever it's called. What's that thing called?
Dyspraxia. Yeah.
Dyspraxia. And why did they say all that stuff? What, just to tell the doctor? There was no need for them to say any of that stuff to the doctor.
But it's brought up a grand total of 4 more times in the entire series. In the entire 2 series, it's brought up 4 more times.
Yeah.
And it's an important part of his character.
It's bollocks. That's what it is. There you go.
You've got to be very, very, very careful when you promise people representation like this right across the board, and when you load your characters with things like this from week 1, because to do that, I'm not against people doing that, because it's grounds to develop a character. But if you're going to invest your characters with these backstories, with these histories, and with things such as dyspraxia, because we know 2 or 3 people, don't we? I'm not going to name names, but I know several people who have dyspraxia.
Yeah.
If I could say it, dyspraxia.
I can't say it.
And they feel really, really shortchanged by this. The one of them in particular, she said, I would rather them not have included it at all.
Oh, really?
Because it makes people. I think the impact is that it is, because there's problem being said in the chat, because the fact that they haven't gone back to it, and you've just said as well, Barnaby, it makes it maybe appear more trivial and more easy to overcome than it actually is. I know this lady in particular, she's in her late 40s and she's living with it on a week-to-week basis. Oh, I do apologize. I'm sorry. Problem being, I have dyspraxia. Didn't know that.
Didn't know that either.
So let us know if we're along the right lines. We say as much or as little as you want, by all means. Yeah. But if I'm speaking out of turn, but that's the way I see it, and that's certainly what I've heard, if I was Tosin Cole, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Barnaby, as an actor, or whether your friend said this, auditioning for these parts, and you're told you're being sold on this character. This is why you should want to play this person, because they are real, and there's all this ground to cover, and all these things that could be developed. You'd find that quite exciting. I can totally see why Tosin would have taken it, would have been stimulated.
On paper, he's an incredibly exciting character. I mean, when I was, the first probably 2 minutes of watching the Woman Who Fell to Earth, I was going like, oh, I can get quite into this sort of person. And then it was only when it sort of later went on, and he just became a background character as the majority of the companions became. Which was just sad. And you're right about it being just sort of trivialized. It was the fact it was just never brought up again.
Every male in this episode was weak or was that didn't know what to do, or that, you know what I mean? There wasn't any strong males in this, apart from Graham. Graham was the voice of reason. And if we go through this, I will tell you when Graham says, we shouldn't do that, but everybody else does it. Graham was the guy with the brains, mate. I tell you. This scene, this is where things start to sort of escalate, and they take the Doctor out of the equation for a little while, don't they, to bring the characters through. So there's this scene in it where they get into the car, and the Doctor gets out of the car and assigns everyone a job to do. Right?
Yes.
She's just met them. Okay, right. It's in the middle of the night, and they're all doing what she told them to do. Someone they've just met in 15 minutes. Does that make any sense to any of you?
I think they probably thought she was Sue Pollard from Heidi High. It's very, very similar performance.
It's absolute crap.
Probably ask for an autograph a little bit later on.
I mean, that would have made more sense, because I think after this scene, she's on the sofa, and you see the bit of regeneration energy. I mean, that's the first definitive sign that she's not human. Yeah.
But
yes,
if you saw that happening in front of you, what is the first thing you would do? You'll go, better call the ambulance. Better try and get her to the doctor. She's glowing. Jesus Christ, I'm getting out of this room. You wouldn't just stand there and go, she's glowing, and go, oh. Mate, she's got two. What is it? Remember when we were doing the thing? She's got 2 beats here, and you wouldn't stand there and look. You'll just run out of the room because this woman is glowing and she's an alien. She might explode. You know what I mean? That makes no sense. Look, if this was David Tennant's Doctor, he'll be trying to make them go in a nice way. He'd be saying to them, "No, you shouldn't go. You should go home. Don't worry about it. I'll deal with it." But this Doctor, none of what she does make any sense. I don't know if you agree. I just think none of it makes any sense. That's why the story's so bad.
She's a slave to bad writing. That's the thing. It's a slave to the plot.
Exactly.
And the only reason the companions don't take her to hospital is because the plot needs her to stay there, so she can do the whole finding the explosives in the collarbone. That's the thing, and that's the trademark of bad writing. Exactly.
I'm somebody, gentlemen. I'm never ashamed to admit this, because this is just who I am. But I think it's partly the field that I work in, being an illustrator, graphic designer, and being a creative. If there are pretty pictures on screen, I can be distracted, shall we say, to the point where I don't see the joins in something like this. But and that's happened a lot. And I think Doctor Who does thrive on that. I think it's a very, very visual show, and this is why it attracts a lot of creative people, while a lot of its fans go on to work in the creative arts, etc. You know, it's something that's often repeated. Certainly true in my case. I'm not, and I don't claim to be one of life's big critical thinkers, but yes, you're right. And this time I watched it, I think you can see the frameworks. The skeleton of the script shows through. It's as if the skin is translucent, and so you can identify all of its working parts, what they're doing, and where they're leading. I believe this is about 25 minutes into the story.
Yeah, but Grace is a nurse. Do you know what I mean? Don't you think she'd think, oh, we probably get affected by her, infected by whatever's coming out of her? Wouldn't she be saying that? Wouldn't she be telling Ryan to step back?
I think they probably want to put into isolation, because it does look like she's very, very, very ill, and that she's carrying something.
Yeah, you wouldn't just stand there and talk like nothing's happening, or even touch her. Even It makes no sense. Oh, Mr. Tickbox Big Ears man, right? He's putting cameras up, looking at the mushroom, looking at, you know, I don't know what he's trying to achieve here, but it's just ridiculous. The whole.
No, I did start to, and at various points of this, I did start to tune out, and that was another thing that sort of started to wash over me a little bit. But the production values, you know, they engaged me the first time I watched it, and to be fair, they sort of got me paying attention again now, you know, because it does look pretty and the music's so good. And as I was watching it, as I've said, I had this thing in the back of my head, whereas I didn't particularly like this at the time. I felt the episode did its fair share to hold up its end of the bargain, to be something that was very, very obviously different, and yet still appeal potentially to the same people as a starting point, but it just got progressively worse. Rather than take all the things about this that could have led somewhere and could have been fresh and new and exciting, all the bad elements that we're now talking about, Ian, that you're circling, those are the elements that came to the foreground. The bad characterization, the poor writing, the silly reasoning.
Yeah, the reasoning is terrible, absolutely terrible. I mean, she wakes up and she says everybody's got a bomb in their collarbone, a DNA bomb. You know, DNA bomb. Are you kidding me? A freaking DNA bomb. You know, it's stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Well, that's the kind of thing that looks good when you type it out, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just stupid. You know?
Chips, you've done it again. DNA bomb. Ooh, hit my mic.
Again, why are they listening to her? Why are they listening to her? Again, you know, I just... Anyway,
because they don't appear very scared, do they? I'd say if they were scared, I would listen to somebody who, if I was really, really scared in a room full of people and there was one person who wasn't scared, I would probably listen to that person.
Graham's the only one sort of reacting, you know, well, somewhat normally, I mean, in a comedic kind of fashion. Yeah. But he's usually saying things like, no, I don't want to go in there. Like, do we have to go and do that? And at least he's kind of like, that's what makes it entertaining. That is what the rest of the characters should be doing. But they're all just like, I mean, particularly like, I think the expression on, I think it was Ryan and Yaz's face when they found out the DNA bombs, it is literally just, there's no expression there. So I'm just thinking, did they think the camera wasn't on them at that point? Did they think acting time was over now? That just annoys me. That has me.
It's like, and then what's his name? The robot guy breaks out of the mushroom thing. And he's like, "Where's my sister?
Jim Shaw.
Where's my sister?" I'm like, at that moment in time, you're going, "What?"
This is where it really starts to show its working parts, isn't it? Because again, Doctor Who has ripped off things over and over again. It's homaged, it's subverted, and it's spun. And here we see this is Predator in Sheffield, and this is where that becomes clear.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
and they really go with that. And I've not necessarily got anything against that. You know, the brain of Morbius is Frankenstein.
Well.
The seeds of doom is the thing from another planet. I don't mind that in principle, but it doesn't do anything very interesting with it. And this guy,
Dan, look at that picture. Dan, look at that. That's scary. Yes. And that big-head man, the big box man, he's just standing there going, "Where's my sister? Where's my?" You know what I mean? You'd be running. You'd be like, "What the hell?" And you'd be out of there.
You'd forget you'd even had a sister. Yeah,
exactly.
You probably would. Doing all that.
Can I just say my favorite character so far in this entire thing is Kebab Man. In particular, man who throws salad at huge killer robot predator monster. Halloween's next month, mate. And I'm going like, yeah, that's probably what I do too.
Throw your kebab in the air. Yeah, that became a bit of a meme as well, didn't that actor?
Oh, did it?
I think he became quite notorious on Twitter for that for a little while.
That is good to it. Good
that is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, the guy's shouting, "Where's my sister? Where's my sister?" And the big robot man is there, and you know it's all going to end in tears, right? So there you go.
Let's see what other people have got to say here. Power of the Daleks, Spirit from Space are so good.
Yeah.
I love Power.
First episodes. They're fantastic stories. And how many stories in series one ended up with the cast having explosive devices stuck on their bodies? Wasn't it 3? actually, now you come to mention it. I mean, it could have been. I've blocked so much of it out, problem being. I can't really remember, but I'll take your word for it.
In the next episode, in the Ghost Monument, don't they have explosives? Or is that another...
I don't know.
It's one of the other characters or something like that, maybe.
I can't quite remember. Hey, Daniel Leach is the Colgate monster.
I mean, again, Graham's the only one with sense here. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can track.
That's why he's the most relatable.
Yeah, I can track that thing through the collarbone things. And Graham's going, should we not wait? Should we not think about this? And they're all off. And Graham's like, wait a moment.
Well, now, this episode is 63 minutes long, believe it or not. And this is where they do a lot of running around. Even by Doctor Who standards, there's a lot of running around. But by this point, I don't know if you noticed, but this is where the characters, what I was saying earlier on about Yaz and Ryan, this is the point where the characters stop talking to one another. And they start to trail and follow around. Now, obviously, it is Doctor Who. All eyes are on the Doctor. But this is the problem with introducing a larger main cast all at once in one episode. Somebody's got to get left out. And this is where it really starts to show. The scenes with Bradley Walsh and Sharon D. Clark here, they start to connect with the Doctor while Ryan and Yaz... I don't even know what they were doing. I mean,
exactly. As Barnaby says, they're doing things to advance the story. It doesn't work because they're doing things that doesn't make any sense to advance the story. I mean, Jodie, right? They see this guy's face torn apart and his teeth missing. You know, I mean, if your face is torn apart like that, the last thing you're gonna look at is someone's tooth missing. Do you know what I mean? And she comes to the conclusion, one of his teeth has been extracted. Could you imagine the mess?
At this point, first time and this time, I was sort of hanging on in there, really, because when I decided I would rewatch this
as much as you want.
But this scene here, this performance where she takes the spoons. And as Charlotte says, are we ready for 13 to make her trusty Sonic?
No.
For me,
Sonic ever.
For me, this
boring
is
design ever.
Yeah.
But for me, this is the best scene of the entire episode. This is where
This is where and this is the best scene. In fact, I'll say even more so. I will say that we're now 21 episodes in, Jodie. This is the very best scene of your entire era. And he had to be big to say that.
Yes.
Can I say she has a speech or something beforehand where she talks about him getting born again, and that's quite good. I think she has like a speech or something where before she makes the Sonic, where she goes like, "You're about to die and you feel about to die, and then you're born again."
I thought that was quite nice. Yeah,
that felt quite Doctor Who-y. But then we move on.
Then it gets spoiled for the next scene where Yaz and Ryan, and on the computer it says, "If I what's it say? The computer, if I die, play me," or some nonsense like that. And the computer
in the middle of the screen.
It doesn't have any passwords or anything like that. It's just,
well, that's why that guy was setting up the webcam, wasn't it? So that they could see what he'd seen. Whereas, really, this episode could have probably been about 10 minutes shorter if they'd have got rid of all of that.
Exactly.
And it actually used Ryan and Yaz in the content of it. But yes, just to go back to this and just to prove I'm not a completely miserable bastard are there any Jodie fans watching? Anybody who likes this? Anybody who loves the era? Because I did say we put it out on Twitter. I wanted people to come along and tell us what they like about this. But I still think this scene, the music, the direction, I think the performance is kind of okay for what it is. But it does sort of capture some energy. I think she, at this point, she's not.
Yeah,
really
but the timing is wrong because how long did she take to make that sonic screwdriver, right? And then you've got Yaz and
the timing of the entire episode.
Time's completely wrong, right? Because it seems like she took a long time making that thing, but Yaz and Ryan, they weren't doing anything. And it only took a couple of minutes before they came to the conclusion with the thing on the screen. So none of that makes any sense timing wise. It makes no sense. As a screenwriter, I know that makes no sense, but it's just made me laugh where it said on the screen, if I die, click on this. It's like, why?
Pessimistic old man, but fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
From this point, it is all downhill from here. I don't think the episode ever recaptures the energy of this scene. I mean,
Dan,
I won't say too much about the sonic screwdriver.
The spoons was a nod to Sylvester McCoy.
No.
Oh, was it?
I don't know. Was it?
I didn't even see
the question because there's loads of spoons. Because he plays the spoons, right? So I don't know. Was it? What do you reckon, Dan?
Them or something?
Yeah, in an episode he played them, didn't he?
No, I don't. I mean, it would be nice. Yeah. There's very few mentions of the past in this. Nothing that's even overtly. I think that's quite a good thing. And Snobbat Girl says, I admit I did like the music in the scene. It's the only bit that I remember. Yeah, exactly.
Remember that famous line? Well, it's not famous. I guess it's famous. I never refuse. Remember, when people need help, I never refuse. Tell that to Graham when he was talking about cancer.
Yes, that scene. Yeah, when didn't she say that?
She said it in that scene. Yeah,
in the scene that you were just talking about, Barnaby. Yes. Yeah, you're right. And and that does. When I rewatched it, I immediately thought of Graham and that entire situation where the BBC had a record amount of complaints in about that. I understand, it really did go through the roof. Didn't they have to put out not an apology, but they put out an action line thing on the website afterwards? Yeah, they don't apologize.
She built the ugliest screwdriver in the entire history of Doctor Who. The ugliest.
Following it up with the ugliest console room.
That's right. That too.
Oh God.
That too.
Yeah. God. So thank heaven that's not in this episode because I don't think I could face talking about that as well.
And also another thing that really bothers me. Sorry, Dan, is that this guy's a mechanic, right? The tick box big ears man. He's a mechanic. So how does he know how to follow the mushroom thing? If he was a scientist, it would have made sense, right? How did he track the mushroom thing? So he knows where it landed. Do you know what I mean? So that is another bit. Exactly. That's another bit of stupid writing because he says in the video, I tracked it. My sister went missing and I tracked it and I found the mushroom thing and all that rubbish. It's like if you were a scientist, I can believe you, but you're a bloody mechanic. How did you do it? Did you have help? Do you know what I mean? That didn't make any sense to me either. You see, now do you realize how bad this script is? It's really bad.
And this is the same problem. This is the same problem. This is Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who. This is its entire mode. And all the episodes that follow it, I can't think of a single one that isn't like this. It's almost at some point during Series 12. I mean, I won't go on about that too much. Some of the episodes in Series 12, they were that poorly constructed. Like you were saying, Ian, about timescales, to the point where as I was watching them, it was as if somebody a couple of seats away was flipping the channels on the remote and I was watching 2 or 3 episodes of 2 or 3 different things all at once. It was very, very strange. And I think that probably has its beginnings in this as well. The script editor on this was Nina Mativier, who actually still on the show, but she wrote an episode of Series 12. And I think, well, okay, if Chris Chibnall, any writer, shouldn't be perhaps left to their own devices to write and then edit themselves afterwards. Shouldn't be somebody giving this another pass and sort of pulling it together, stitching it together. As a creative, you'd think Chris got a writer's room who'd want to do that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely slapdashed. It feels like they didn't think about it too much. You're right about the timing. As I said, the amount of time that the Doctor took to make her crappy sonic screwdriver, the time between Yaz and what's his name, Ryan, find that thing on the computer, that's a very short moment of time. Yet when they join them, she's already finished making a screwdriver. It makes bloody no sense. Anyway, so Graham gets a call from his bus driver friend.
Things like that, the thought of that is quite amusing.
I'm sorry.
And Bradley Walsh plays it quite well.
Yeah, he does.
I did quite like that, how it was sort of really sort of like over the top, like you want to know anything, ask a bus driver. And I'm like,
yeah.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So that leads to another bit, doesn't it? It leads to them finding the cable monster on a roof or something like that.
Yes, there we are.
Again, no one questions Jodie. They just do exactly what she says. And this huge alien thing that looks like a big cable, they're not scared. They just stand in there and it makes no freaking sense.
Everyone knows that the scribble monster from Fear Hell was so good that they had to do it twice. obviously.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes, it is quite visually similar, isn't it? Yeah, I think it works again, like all the visuals in this. It works quite well. But I noticed how, Ian, you never refer to her as the Doctor; it's always Jodie, and that's
No.
you're not deliberately doing that, are you? It's just the fact that she doesn't appear.
I mean, for me, and I know for you, she never made an impression on me as the Doctor in this episode. It seemed to me, this seemed like it seemed like just an ordinary sci-fi. It wasn't Doctor Who for me, because there was no TARDIS, right? And you know, the Doctor was a woman, and it didn't click with me when I was watching it. None of it actually came across as Doctor Who at all for me. But then that's just me. I mean, a lot of people that like Jodie, if they think she's the Doctor, that's fine with me too. I don't mind. But I'm just telling you, I want to go through the script and tell you how bad it is, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's a really good one to start off with. I didn't see anything wrong with it. And it's my job to point out what's wrong with this script.
I don't know if you have this as well, Barnaby. But speaking as a fan of someone who isn't really a writer, you know, I've written stuff in the past, but not a script. You know, so as somebody who never claims to be a writer, people ask me, you know, why don't you like this era, or why didn't you like that episode? And you say something like, well, the writing seemed bad. The characterization wasn't there. And people, particularly if you say this on social media, people will answer you with a laughing emoji, as if the suggestion that the writing in this is subpar is the most outrageous thing you could have come out with. Or you're just saying that as a smokescreen because you're a nasty old sexist dinosaur, and all the other stuff that we usually get. But you know, this is what having someone like yourself here, Ian, and the way that you explain yourself, you're always able to sort of pinpoint and say exactly why. But I've noticed that even though you can give examples and citate, and alternatively say, you know, so instead of doing that, they should have done this, and that would have worked. But people still laugh at you, don't they, and still call you a sexist.
Because they don't know any better. That's the thing. I mean, you know, like, for instance, my sister saw the last Star Wars movie, and she loved it. I mean, God bless her. But, you know, if you look at it logically, the whole thing doesn't work. And it's the same thing with this episode. It doesn't work. Like, for instance, the Tim Shaw character, okay, he appears,
Tim Shaw,
wherever his name is, and
Tim Shaw.
He's killed loads of people, right? He's killed everybody. We find out the plot here because Jodie actually speaks out the plot. And you know what the plot is? You'd laugh. Basically, he's an alien, and the cable thing's an alien, and he has to find that information from the cable thing to actually get a human on the planet so he can go back to his planet to become king, right? What a stupid... And it's not even an important person. He could have grabbed anyone.
He's the end of... Tim Shaw. I thought you were saying Tim Shaw wasn't born. No, Tim Shaw is the end of series. He's the big bad guy. He's like... You know, he's going to be brought up over and over again. He's going to be up there with Davros.
But look, right. What's his name? Tim Shaw killed a lot of people, even the salad guy. And yet, he doesn't kill those on this... He doesn't kill Jodie or the rest of them. He could have just killed them all.
Yeah.
And that gag is sort of okay, the Tim Shaw gag, but generally this character does the whole motivation behind his character. It just sort of washes over you. Yeah. You can hear your inner fan as that plot is being explained to you. You can hear yourself just sort of go, yeah, whatever, inside. And you know, Tim Shaw, no, as a villain in this story, he barely passes muster. I'm a big fan of Ben Shaw. I love the guy's Lemonade, but Tim Shaw, and the fact that they brought him back. Sorry about the gag. Yes, that's about the level on this channel. Yes, but with this character,
it encourages you. Sorry,
it just starts to break down before your very eyes. Of course, again, this is an opening episode. I may be making excuses for Chris Chibnall here. You know, it's not rocket science. There's always got to be an element of run around. But as problem being so rightly says here, you don't need to be a writer to know it's shit. Just eyes, ears, and a brain, and an IQ in triple digits. It is true. And although this is what our friend Problem B, he's got this sense of humour that he's unmistakable. But you know, he is right, and it's not being facetious at all. It really is this simple. We're all human beings. We only know and respond to what we feel and the story we're being told. And if it doesn't ring true and if it doesn't engage, we can't force ourselves to feel that which we don't.
Yeah,
and this because by this point now, this episode is going seriously awry, isn't it? It's Ryan on his bike. It's all over the fucking place, and we're, you know, people who are willing it to succeed. And at this point,
I wanted it to succeed.
You are still hanging on because it's
Doctor Who. Yeah,
but it's not bloody working. Starry-eyed girl says, but the plot needed them to stay alive.
They could have done it another way.
Good enough excuse as any.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there was a Tim Shaw character.
Yes.
He basically gets the information from the cable monster, and then he zaps away. It's like, why didn't he kill them? He just because the Doctor made it clear that she was going to stop him, right? And so, why would he just go? You're going to stop me, are you? Okay, zap. You're all dead. Bye. And just. But he didn't do that. Why did he do that?
Barnaby, you grew up watching the early. You were still at school when Chris Eccleston was on, and probably David Tennant as well. And when the Sarah Jane Adventures was sort of coming out, and watching this, and people said at the time, it's subpar Sarah Jane Adventures. But that series was really, really sophisticated, certainly more so than this. And the writer Phil Ford, how he hasn't written more actual Doctor Who, I really don't know. I believe he would have really licked this into shape. Sarah Jane stories, they were generally two-parters, and the stories were quite similar to this. All of them had a sort of run-around feel to them. But of course, Sarah Jane had 3 companions in the majority of those stories, and yet the scripts by various people. I think Phil Ford was sort of the script editor and quasi showrunner of that. They just felt so coursing with energy. They never felt stupid. They certainly never talked down to kids, and they always gave adults something to sort of latch onto as well and to stimulate them. And that's why the wheels begin. I use this metaphor all the time.
Yeah, you do.
I think you know what I'm about to say, but they do.
Yeah, they do.
And we're heading towards the conclusion now. Here we are.
Carl's listening to a self-help tape, isn't he?
I am special. I am important.
Yes. But by this point, we haven't seen Carl for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But that tape is only there. I think I could be wrong, but that tape is only really there to give him some kind of like connection to him. Because if they didn't have that tape there, and he was just like controlling the crane, you wouldn't care if he lived or died. The fact they had to probably at the last minute, they're thinking, we've got to give somebody to give him some kind of characterization. How about we just have him put in a CD or a tape or something if it's someone of like a self-help thing? That'll show his character without him, actually saying anything or actually interacting or doing anything.
Yeah. But in the film The Predator, right? He came to Earth because he was a sportsman and he found hunting people a good sport, so he can go back to his world and go, you know what, I hunted the but this guy, he comes to our planet to hunt someone that's completely useless, has no faith in himself. How is that going to make him king when he goes back? I got this guy, he's pathetic, right?
And he has to cheat as well in order to do
it. Exactly. It makes no sense.
And the fact that I've never given this any serious consideration just adds more fuel to the fire to me that what I was saying earlier on, that none of this stuff matters. They never really sell you on any of it. The plot is irrelevant. And although Doctor Who certainly is more than the sum of its parts, you can have thin plots. It's absolutely fine if the visuals and characters are interesting, no problem. But in this, it's all starting to look thin. The characterization has fallen. The plot has fallen at the exact point. And of course, we're now heading into the conclusion, the point where traditionally, even if the Doctor isn't fully the Doctor yet, where the Doctor must assert themselves and where the actor and the character must meet, they must completely coalesce and become one.
I'm the Doctor. Yeah.
Jumping over that crane suddenly made me remember.
Yes.
Example after example after example after example. And where this episode broke with a recent tradition was that this was the first episode that Jodie Whittaker filmed, whereas previous Doctors, I think, even if they'd been in the first production block, they normally recorded a couple beforehand to feel their way in the part a little bit. Jodie isn't given that, and in this instance, I'll cut her some slack because I think it does help if they've played the part before in something. Four to Doomsday was filmed fourth, as I've said before. Time of Angels was Matt Smith's first episode that he filmed, which ironically he's amazing in that. He's just as amazing in that as
he's a good actor. It's a good actor.
And there's countless examples. I mean, apart from the Christmas Invasion, obviously, because that was filmed quite a bit before. But generally, that's they help these actors out. And this script, it's letting Jodie down pretty much from day one.
Yeah.
But this scene at the cranes, I think, as Starry-Eyed Girl will tell you, these cranes are. She did mention it earlier on. These cranes are around the corner from where Starry-Eyed Girl lives. And so it's engaged with the populace of Sheffield. You know, there's a degree of excitement in Sheffield, as you would expect.
Do they work in the middle of the night though? Because as far as I know, around where I live, they got loads of cranes up, and when it comes to about 7 or 8, they stop. Everybody goes home.
Let's know. Yes, Starry-Eyed Girl, Sarah. Are those cranes active in the small hours? We need to know this. Technically, we absolutely need to know. Or if you're a crane worker and you work on a site, let us know in the comment section. We need to know these things going forward. But I was wondering, would somebody who was a crane operator, even if they're down in the company, have his headphones on? They've been listening to himself.
Scared of heights.
Sirens going off everywhere. What the health and safety?
My dad owns the company.
Health and safety. Let us know. Is that remotely feasible? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just pulling your plonker there, Chris.
Rubbish, mate. Rubbish.
But what do you feel about this? This is the final act, isn't it? This is where the cast come back together.
And they make Ryan climb. And where does he suffer from?
They even give him the hat like Benny from Crossroads.
And when he's climbing, he's got his torch in his hand. With one hand, he's climbing with his torch in his hand. Put it in your pocket, mate. What's your problem? It makes no sense.
Why did 2 of them have to go up there in the first place?
Exactly.
I never say, because they never do anything when they get up there.
No. Well, they go up there. Actually, they control the crane. They control the crane.
Thing,
And Ryan just like Googles how to control the crane and just like shoves it in front of Diaz. Yeah.
And then he goes, I got a plan. What I want you to do is go in that crane and turn it so I can jump to the other crane. And then they go, the crane. And then she goes, yes, I stole the keys. And it's like, what? You've got the keys. When did that happen? Do you know what I mean? It's like, bad writing.
Just in, everybody, any construction work must stop at 8 p.m.
There you go.
And after COVID, see, we've got
not in Chibnall's world. It is warped view.
And yes, those cranes must be on Viagra to go all night. We like that. Oh, God. I better not crack that joke. Okay, no, I don't want my channel struck down. Yes, what else have we got in the chat? We've got several people laughing at various things. Yes, that's stuff there.
Yep, sorry.
Nobody's very impressed by this, but adrenaline is supposed to be going up, isn't it? And we're supposed to be rooting for them all. I'm forgetting what they're all doing. I'm that uninterested by this. And,
I can tell you. So basically, Yaz and Ryan went up to operate the crane, and the doctor went up too. And Graham and Grace had to persuade everybody to leave the area by pretending to be, I don't know, someone important.
Yeah, they suddenly wore high vis, so everyone knew that they were in charge. And
they believed them. With no credentials or anything. They just put the jacket on. Right, clear out everybody, and they believed them.
Yeah. I noticed that one too, which I'm prepared to sort of buy that because we don't need to see. We need to see every exchange between characters.
Well, it's the writing. You don't put those characters in that situation because you know it doesn't work. So you have to figure out another way of making them get those people out. You know, that's a stupid way to make them get out. I can think of 100 other ways of doing that. You know what I mean? So, but anyway,
is it sad we are laughing so hard at this crap now?
It's so bad. It's bad, but it's still hilarious.
Yes,
it's so bad. It's good. I won't say that.
We're coming up to your favourite bit, though, Dan, aren't we? Where she was on the crane, and because you've spoken about this. About her. Yeah, because remember we were talking and you said, every doctor has that scene where they say, I am the doctor. Yeah. So take it away, Dan.
Well, yes, this scene, I mean, again, it's still shot really, really well. And, there she is hanging on for dear life. Pass me the script, somebody. I can't remember what I'm going to say. Yeah, this is the moment. This is Matt Smith on the roof of the hospital, isn't it?
It is.
This is Peter Capaldi sort of tussling with the robot guy before he pushes him out. This is David Tennant with the Sycorax.
That's right.
Leader and with one hand on his sword and the other hand on the Satsuma. This is this is those moments, and it doesn't stick the landing. I'll say this: we've got Carl at the other end, and I'll tell you a bit I did like.
What's that?
There's this moment again. I mean, that look, the look of it is. There's nothing.
Yeah, it looks great.
That looks like this. Nothing at all.
The cinematography is excellent.
And this moment, actually, as somebody who is afraid of heights, I did, and even watching it this time, I did gulp. There was tension there, but that's more my fear of heights than the dramatic tension, I think. And then, of course, the Doctor makes this heroic leap.
Yeah,
this is about the only heroic moment that I've ever seen in the 13th Doctor's era. I mean, it looks spectacular on screen, and you know, I'll give Jodie Whittaker credit for this. She just throws herself literally into this. But again, from this moment onwards, things get considerably worse, and the cringe,
Ex Machina time.
Cringe in the performance goes up and up and up and up. We've got, as you've quite rightly said there, Barnaby, we've got the gizmo, we've got the smug grin, we've got the Karen sort of persona starts to rise, and we have the moment where, you know, she's got to face down the bad guy, but. Yeah, in this moment, we get the speech, don't we? We get the "I am the Doctor" speech, which we've had before, and there's nothing behind Jodie Whittaker's eyes. She's not remotely connected with this character at this point. Be that a fault with the script, which we've already accepted. That's failing her already. So that's breaking down. You know, it's not, the staples are coming out of it as she's turning the pages. That's not there. She's not connected with the character because she clearly doesn't understand it. And it's starting to sink in. And it had with me at the time. I said so on the podcast back in 2018. I agree now. This is the point where it begins to sink in that this role has been, for the very first time, miscast.
Yep, it has. It has.
On the page, the lines aren't great. They're not, but they don't need to be. They don't need to be Shakespeare. They need to be. They need to ring true, and they need to help the actor / actress. They don't, and because she doesn't know and hasn't done the work to who the character is yet. Then it starts to become, it's the Doctor that we are now used to 20 episodes on. Just somebody repeating parrot-like lines, just somebody doing what they think the Doctor should do and say, and from this moment on, from this moment on, I'm going to bring that up again. From this moment on, this character stopped developing. Yeah, it's now 2 years on, in exactly the same place as it was. In that moment, she has done nothing in this role, which
she hasn't.
And you can say it's, and you know, a lot of people out there say, I blame Chris Chibnall. So do I.
It is the writing. The writing is terrible, mate. The writing's terrible.
Nobody forced this woman to accept this job. She's been acting for a very, very long time. You cannot absolve Jodie Whittaker of all responsibility for a terrible, terrible performance. If she I agree. Herself, she would have seen that she didn't have the tools to play this part and just face that. But she didn't, and here we are 2 years on. But I feel that the character hasn't evolved, Barnaby. I mean, do you see what I mean by that?
I completely agree. I don't think it's evolved at all. I mean, it's the Star Trek Voyager test. You know, you compare Star Trek Voyager to Deep Space Nine. Okay, take any character from Voyager. Let's say Chakotay. You know, what could you really sort of say about him? Face tattoo. That's pretty much it.
So that's it.
Pretty much it.
I'll just say one thing. Kuchi Moya.
That's it.
Kuchi Moya.
I still don't know now. But I know.
But you compare that to Deep Space Nine and Odo. You know, you could say so many different things about Odo. You know, he believes in order. He's just there's so many, and Quark as well. He's not to be trusted. He's just he's obsessed with money. With Chakotay, it's just he's Native American.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that's kind of it. And with Jodie, all you can really sort of say is that I almost feel I just can't say anything else apart from the fact that she's the first female Doctor, and that's terrible because that is not the legacy she should have. No. She should be her own particular kind of Doctor. I mean, I was really the witch burning, not the witch burning, the witches on the docking store one, the one with the witches. I was really looking forward to that because it'd be like, oh, okay, this is something, you know, in a time when women were being persecuted as witches. That's a really interesting thing to do.
It's potent. It's good. It's good ground to visit, particularly with a female lead. But it's good Doctor Who ground anyway. I was the same.
Yeah, but it just so totally disappointed.
Yeah.
And that was just really sort of annoying me. There was so much they could have done with this. I mean, I for one, have always wanted a female Doctor and think it would have been brilliant to kind of like just see what that would have been like. Because they did it once in the Unbound Big Finish audio dramas, which I really love.
No, but now we know.
But it could have been better with a better writer, with a better bunch of writers. And
the mistake. The bad writing combined with the female agenda destroyed this show.
Yeah, the woke agenda.
If you took out the woke agenda, if you took out the female agenda, right, she would have been more feminine. She would have worn more feminine clothes. You would have concentrated on her being the Doctor being a female now, which is not a bad thing. That's what they should have done, and replacing Chibnall's writing with someone that knows Doctor Who would probably be bad. And you know what, Jodie would have been accepted more by the fans if that was the case. But unfortunately, management was bad, and she's ended up in this really awful version of Doctor Who. It's not really her fault, let's face it.
As much as I was against having a female Doctor and still don't see the point, and still would rather have they not have done it, I am perfectly willing to accept that it could have worked. There is no actual practical reason why a female can't play the Doctor or couldn't play the Doctor. No, I'm big enough to admit that. But in this instance, it hasn't worked. And Jean Roddenberry, she's pointed out, reminded us of this fact. Whittaker would benefit from a binge watch of past Doctor Who. Now, the actress has boasted about the fact that she deliberately didn't, that she tried to watch earlier Doctor Who and decided that it wasn't going to help her in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, I mean, obviously, an act. It's her career. It's her decision. She must be questioning that now. Sure.
Well, maybe she doesn't care. You know, she's probably going to leave soon. She's probably going to leave soon.
I don't think she does care. To be
she doesn't give a. I was about to say a bad word there.
And, this is an interesting one. Says you can excuse a journeyman actor playing a part they have been a fan of because they are a fan, but not people who say they've never watched it. Like exactly.
BBC, I'm a fan.
It's just the next job, isn't it? And that's perfectly reasonable. Not everybody in the world is going to be a Doctor Who fan, and you don't need to be a Doctor Who fan to take this part. You've just got to respect the role. You should respect your audience, which whatever you're doing in any part of entertainment, that should come without saying, you're quite right. Thanks for stopping by with that.
But you know, Grace gets killed by the cable monster.
Let's put this bad boy to bed.
There you go.
Grace is up there, and Sharon D. Clark, pretty incredible.
It's like she's lighting the biggest Christmas tree ever, isn't it? That's what it looks like.
It's make sure it's a good scene. And it's a good scene though when she's lying on the ground. I think that was good as well.
I think physically she's great in this. She is. She's got hardly any lines by this point, but she's one with the character, and I could so see her playing the Doctor with this amount of fiction, and she's got gravitas. But yes, we do. This is the scene where she does buy the space farm, doesn't she?
She does.
And it's played really, really beautifully.
And Bradley Walsh's character doesn't cry. He doesn't show any emotion. He does show a bit, but it makes no sense. He does. Yeah, there's a really good scene when he's talking about her in the church, and really good performance by Bradley. That's one of the pluses of this episode. Yeah. But this scene here, he should have been screaming, he should have been crying because that's his wife. He should shout at the Doctor saying, "Why did you allow this to happen, you freaking stupid alien?" Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
She is still a stranger to him at this point.
Exactly.
So I would have expected a little anger, particularly at the moment where Grace does pass. Expect a little anger to go in her direction.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
But all males are weak in this, so that's what they were playing. There, right there.
That moment where she just, I want you to promise you won't be afraid, and it's quite nice.
He would have been crying. He would have been devastated. He doesn't look like he's devastated. It's like he, I don't know, lost his money or something, couldn't find his £10.
Straight to
11 likes. Well done, Brian. Well done.
YouTube start there. On his video blog, which I'm not going to.
He's got 19. He's got 19
I'm not going to take the piss out of him for having his own YouTube channel, am I? Let's face it. But it all falls a little bit flat, doesn't it? But I agree with you. I thought Bradley Walsh was brilliant in, where are we? In this moment there.
Yeah, I did like that.
No, but that doesn't make any sense either. It was, or at that moment was great. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the other moment when he was explaining he had cancer and how he met his wife. That just came out of left field. This is a stupid scene. Why is she looking at Ryan ride a bike? Why is she there? What the, you know what I mean? It's stupid.
It's a metaphor, isn't it?
But what?
But I agree.
But what?
we are determined for this episode to last 60
minutes. And another
thing,
see timing with the script, right? How long was she in that costume for? So you had the funeral. They buried Nan. Right? How long was this in time wise?
Oh yeah, because it all happened over like one night.
Sense.
All night was a whole night was kind of like the whole sort of main thing, and then we had a funeral, which probably took a while to get organized.
That's right, 2 weeks,
so,
2 to 3 weeks,
and she's still in the same. And where did she stay? She hasn't got a TARDIS.
That's true.
On the sofa.
Didn't change.
On the sofa, probably, and she didn't even change her clothes. She just wore the same shit all the time.
Actually, Sarah, that's a good point.
That's a good point. Yeah,
I think by that point, I think Ryan and Yaz have both disappeared. It had just happened somehow. I think it's just lack of attention to detail. Vanessa, hi Vanessa. Ian Bradley can act. All you have to do is contrast his performance with everyone else's. Yeah, and people said at the time, and this is about the entirety of Series 11, that, it's not fair because Bradley Walsh is getting all the good stuff. His material was no better than anybody else's. It's just he's a better actor.
Exactly.
And
he is.
Some of that is time in the saddle, the fact he's been doing it longer, fair enough. But in every respect, even at the age of 25, 30, he would have been a better actor, I suspect.
Yeah.
He's wonderful in it.
And also, they had to throw in the bad dad thing, didn't they? When she was talking to Ryan, oh, my dad's not going to come to the funeral, even that, oh, for freak's sake, just leave it out, mate, leave it out. But, they threw that in. So there you go.
Oh, Sarah mentions this. It's a YouTube channel that never gets mentioned again. Yeah, it could be seen to update. No, but in truth, when they're stood around in the TARDIS doing sweet Fanny Adams, over and over again, we see that he could be using some sort of intergalactic Wi-Fi to update his YouTube channel, couldn't he? I mean, not to sort of give away the secrets of the TARDIS or anything, but something. If he was just talking about dyspraxia or talk, there's just nothing there. They never run with any of it. Yeah, I thought about that, Sarah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And then afterwards, we have the scene where she changes her clothes and she becomes Mork and Mindy. She gets that costume.
I want to acknowledge this moment for a while because I do like this. I like the intention behind this. The fact that it is so everyday, being at the Garden Gate with all the characters together drinking tea. Again, this is a nice Doctor Who moment. This is after what's gone before, to bring it right back down to earth, to something that we've all done this at some point, hung around someone's garden gate when we could have probably have gone in, bringing a couple.
No, I've never done that.
I have, and I like.
I have.
I like this moment. And
maybe it's because I live in a council flat. There's no gates.
At this, she's been sort of exposed by this point now. I don't feel that I'm in the presence of the Doctor at all.
But you know what, right? They all know she's an alien, right? And all of them are comfortable with it. And Graham and Ryan are not pissed off with her because she was the one responsible for the death of, well, she not really, but if it wasn't for her, Grace would still be alive.
And we've had, I suppose we don't know what conversations they've had in the 2 weeks in between. But
still, you're not supposed to guess, are you? The script is either meant to suggest something or basically tell you what happened, but it tells you nothing. Absolutely tells you nothing.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, ridiculously. Resolution tries to redeem. I think because Ryan's dad doesn't turn up to the funeral, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Resolution tries to redeem Ryan's dad and then blows it at the end with being seemingly unconcerned with Ryan returning to this dangerous life. Yeah, again, it's more of the same. The same problems keep recurring. The show never develops. It never fixes its problems. And the men continually are weak characters or surly.
Or evil characters.
Playing evil. Yeah, it all goes one way, doesn't it? And Grace, just the first of the vast Jodie
body count.
Jodie is a bad actress. She just isn't the part. You need a ton of charisma and intelligence. You certainly need the charisma.
Yeah. But they use because the one trait that Jodie's doctor has is that she talks to herself, and they use that trait to explain the plot. That's how bad the writing is. Like every episode, she's explaining what's going on, and it's just really bad. It's just,
as I've said before, TARDIS full of companions. Yet every chance Chibnall gets, he pushes them out of the way and has her talk to the scenery. Sorry, Barnaby.
Oh no, it's just rule one of screenwriting. You know, show, don't tell.
Exactly.
And she's telling constantly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, and they go back to Tick Box, Big Ears Man garage. They go back to his garage, and she's looking for a TARDIS. She's like,
I'm sorry to do this to you again, Ian, but I'm afraid that, we can't possibly not talk about this. This is the moment where, for me, Doctor Who as a TV show and the character of the Doctor completely vanished. Was this moment?
Yes. To me,
something about wearing the clothes, wearing Peter Capaldi's frayed suit. They say the clothes don't maketh the man or the woman, but I think I feel differently depending on the clothes that I'm wearing, and we all do. I think,
but that's a statement, isn't it, Dan?
Actors, I don't know if you find that, Barnaby, getting into costume is part of it. You're
absolutely,
for example, but in your craft, and I feel that something about the Doctor, once she sheds the vestiges of Peter Capaldi's look and goes for this, the character of the Doctor, any chance of her laying hands on it at all just goes up in smoke. I mean, I'm looking behind her now. I've never noticed before, but I think the sweater that she's got on her right hand side, that would have been much better.
It's a Starfleet uniform, isn't it?
Yeah.
My mother is a staple of charity shops in the West Midlands. They love her, all the staff around there. And I spent years sort of picking my way through charity shops looking for old Doctor Who books, funnily enough. I know my way around charity shops. You would never, in a million years, something this designed in a charity shop, either separately or together. This designer, and I do like Ray Holman's work. He put together Matt Smith's costume for his first episode, which I adore. This is a massive and total design fuck up in every conceivable way.
It's a statement, isn't it, Dan? It's a huge statement to the Doctor Who fans, saying that we're going this way and, screw you, basically. Because with the rainbow thing on the shirt, that's definitely telling you that that's where they're going.
It's every mistake you could possibly make in the look of this character. Firstly, it's costume and not clothes. Secondly, it's making a political statement. As somebody walks in the room. Thirdly, it's giving somebody a uniform. I've said this before. I'm sorry for the people who went through series 12 with me week by week, but this is why Jodie Whittaker has the wrong idea about this character. Yeah, she feels that she's playing a superhero, and because she's effectively got a symbol on her chest and a cape, who are you to argue with that? Somebody signed off on this. Chris Chibnall signed off on this, or whatever. Nobody said no. Nobody softened this. Nobody turned it from costume into clothes. And I just can't.
It's void of anything feminine. It's void of anything feminine. She's a female. She's a strong female. The Doctor's become a female now. Why not celebrate that rather than making her look like a little boy? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But that's where they want to go. That it's their show. It's not my show anymore. Good luck. That's the thing. So
the chat certainly agrees. Got Lord Thorfies because there are a few dudes, but this is the worst Doctor Who outfit ever. And thank you. And yes, Jean also chips in. She looks so much better in Capaldi's look, even better than Capaldi, in my opinion.
Yeah. What about the trailer? What she was wearing in the trailer was much better than what she was wearing in she was wearing the hoodie and she had the black. She was all in black. That's so much better.
That silhouette was that's a classic Doctor Who silhouette, and it would have worked. That's the only thing they don't get wrong by leaving her with the hoodie. And yet, strangely, I don't remember her ever having the hood up in any of the episodes that would follow. No. They've just completely that really did strike a note with the viewing public. That did on that announcement video. That was a pop culture moment. When that video came out, and they've I wouldn't even say they've gone half measures. They've just left it on the table and gone in a different direction and just made it completely ridiculous. Sarah says when you compare her to Romana 1 and 2 and Missy, it's all
exactly. Romana's costume, both Romanas, was just that was amazing. That was like trend setting. That's a brilliant one.
Yeah. Oh, we got mushroom back.
Go on, Ian. Here we are. We're at the conclusion. You can leave.
Well, so this conclusion makes me laugh because she says, I mean, she's from another world and technology is far more advanced than our planet. Yet she's in the garage, and was she working with? Car parts, maybe spoons again. And she could,
and some of the alien technology as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
I haven't got a problem with that.
Yeah. So basically, she tracks the TARDIS. She says, "Oh, I got the TARDIS. Right, everybody, goodbye." She zaps it, and everybody disappears, and they end up in space. They should have frozen to death that very second, but hey,
they should have stayed there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the end. Thank God. That's all I can say.
This moment where they, again, some of the effects of this are really quite beautiful. I love the way that they disappear to the vanishing point of that.
Yeah,
and I still maintain that the look of this is the only thing that stays consistent through this episode. Jamie Childs did come back and direct another one. I think it was Demons of the Punjab, which also looks beautiful as well. But I don't think the series ever really looked.
I worked with that cinematographer.
Really?
The guy actually lit that episode. Yeah, I was on a shoot when he was on it. I asked him a lot of questions. He gave me a lot of answers, but I'm not allowed to say the answers.
Oh, okay.
But you can guess what he thought.
Oh God! Well, yeah, I mean, it's beautifully lit. It's a nice moment, and I thought the cliffhanger to this was actually okay. I wasn't happy with the show at this point, and my fears about the lead character were really starting to
realize.
Yeah, but I was wondering how they were going to get out of that, and I had wondered if the return of the cliffhanger for every single episode was something they were going to continue with, but of course that didn't happen, and we know this is preposterous. Of course we know you can't possibly breathe in that vacuum, but it's still visually quite a nice thing to leave the audience on.
She just froze like that.
Yeah.
Like a mission to Mars, just like
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
The matter is that Doctor Who that was the last time the show had me any tension at all.
It's just not Doctor Who anymore. It's just not.
No, it's not
Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and it's not so sad because I've never felt that I'm not going to come back to a series, but I think I made it up to halfway through season 12. And this is before the Timeless Child, even though I know what was going to happen in the Timeless Child. But I've just given up, and that's terrible. That's a show that I've adored ever since I was like 10 years old. It's just
So looking back at this, Barnaby, do you feel as I do that it isn't all in your imagination and you aren't being unreasonable? I feel completely vindicated by watching this again because I feel that Doctor Who has got considerably worse just since this, and I didn't particularly like this.
It's just not entertaining really for me anymore. And I can sit through Time Lash. I was actually really happy in the chat they were talking about Time Lash. I can sit through that because at least it has the guy from Blake 7 in it, who's always brilliant. Yeah. And he knows he's in a crap episode and he's just having fun. I can watch that one. I would rather watch Time Lash or Delta and the Bannerman than the entire 2 series. And it's very, very sad that I kind of feel that way because with the right ingredients in, it could have been quite good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Totally agree with that.
I agree too, and I think that it's ironically one of the things that when they were gearing up to launch this, apart from the female Doctor, which understandably did take all of the press, there was a lot of talk about the writers' room mechanics and model of bringing the show to the screen, because obviously that's standard practice in the States, not on British TV. But they somehow it doesn't work. It should have worked, shouldn't it? We've got somebody in the chat here I wanted to say hello to. Can't Jodie Sears?
Yes.
Hijinks by the Dream Lord. Derek Brady's a good friend of ours. Very supportive.
That could be
Facebook group and a lovely guy.
She's just the Valiant. Either one.
yeah.
Maybe we ought to come back together at some point and decide how we would fix this. What would we
did
do?
that already, Dan?
We didn't. We skipped a groove in time. Yes. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, and if you're listening to all this complaining by the 3 of us, I'm thinking, come on, lads, if this is so bad, why don't you tell us how you would do it better? Well, the truth is, Ian, we already did, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
On the Facebook channel, you can find a video called Type 40 Doctor Who Live Run the Show. Now, that will pop up on a card somewhere on the screen at the end of this show, and I'll pop it in the description too. But that was a full 3 hours worth of myself, Ian David Diaz, and various guests, some of which are much more notorious and much big-mouthed than the pair of us even talking about what we would have done at this precise moment in time and how Doctor Who could have been so much better. So that's on that video. Heaven knows what we'll talk about on the next Type Over 40. But do you feel, has it exercised any demons, or are you sort of even more frustrated by this, Barnaby?
I just needed to let it out. And, it feels better. I feel lighter somehow.
Let's see what the chat says. Here we are. It's I came too
late. Oh dear, oh dear.
See what else we've got. Oh, we've got, yes, somebody agrees with you. This has probably been
time lash. Yes.
Oh.
Save your breath for the time lash, Doctor. Some like to leave with a scream.
Oh dear.
Paul Darrow, what a guy. Rest in peace, Paul Darrow.
Get your agent on the phone. Get your agent. I enjoyed Kablam as well, almost Doctor. So yeah, people have different opinions about
this.
They say
that was the best episode, didn't they?
Yeah, it probably was. I think people ties Kablam was at least it felt a little bit like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Well, there was a surprise in that one. At least great panel and totally agree.
Thanks, Problem.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here. Hope to get you back on the show at some point very, very soon. And yes, there we are. Okay, Ian.
Yes.
This was your idea. You've taken it through it beat by beat, 2 years on. Do you want to give us, what would you score this out of 10 as is on screen?
Out of 10, probably a 3. And that's being generous because the photography was really good in it and it looked terrific. That's the only reason why I'd give it 3. That's me.
Production values at the best. I should say, how many Hershey's Kiss turds out of 10? Barnaby, how many Hershey's Kiss turds would you give this out of 10?
I feel generous. I'll give it 4. 4 Hershey's Kiss turds because cinematography as well, and also that music when Tim Shaw is climbing the crane. I liked the music when he's climbing the crane. I was really into it. I listen to it sometimes on YouTube. But that music doesn't turn up again that I remember, but I don't think it does. And that's what elevated for me. And also one of the few episodes which has Grace in it, and I always have a lot of time for the character of Grace. So I would give it a 4. Yeah.
And Story-Eyed Girl, her honorary 4. She give that 4 as well. And who we have? We've got a rating in from our friend Father Christopher Miller. Hello,
Father Christopher.
He says, "Oh, where is it? Where's that gone? Oh, here we are." Father, a man of the cloth as well. There, well,
he's doing the Lord's work, all right.
Yes. Oh, there's Derek here. Having a laugh about that at some point. Yes, I really don't like people who, when they are asked to rate something, give it a half, give it a sort of 7.5 out of 10 or a 4.5 out of 10. I always think that's a bit of a cop out. So I'm between a 3 and a 4. Which am I going to go with? I'm somewhere between where you two guys are. I think I'm going to give it, because think about what I said at the time. I'm going to go with the 4. Yeah, I'll give it the 4. Yes. Because it does get so much worse. You have to give yourself somewhere to go. I don't intend on rewatching the rest of Series 11 for further shows. Sorry to disappoint you guys in the chat. Anybody watching this afterwards, we're not going to do some more of these. That's all I've got left. But I will direct you towards the podcast. We've got reviews of all 21 episodes of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who are on there. Yes, for your listening pleasure, if you want to go back and find them and relive my agony with me there week by week. Gentlemen, I hope to have you back on at some point. Barnaby, this is your first stream. Have you enjoyed yourself?
First ever stream. Absolutely enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for having me on.
Let's put it up and remind people out there, because we've had people watching. Yes, if you've stayed with us this long, I think you owe us a like at the very, very least.
Exactly.
Amused whilst you're doing the washing up, so please like this video. Even if you don't like what we've said, like the fact that we've done it, like and subscribe to the channel, because otherwise how are we going to outrage and disgust you at a later date?
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's lots of other things to find on the channel. Lots more Doctor Who talk. We've done about 30 of these silly videos so far, and the Star Trek talk in Warp Drive. There's James Bond talk, and there's
James
more
Bond talk.
Yes, there could be more James Bond talk too. We're having lots of fun on this show. We've got some more comments here. Okay, what have we got? Let's say goodbye to the chat. Oh, Derek's very happy. I don't know what that's about. He seems to be enjoying it. Kelly says, great stream, guys. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Kelly.
Everybody this evening. It's been enjoyable after a fashion. I have to remind everybody. I mean, I've certainly enjoyed your company, gentlemen. I have to remind people. I've got to get this up on screen. Bear with me one moment. My eyes are tired. Yes, so Doctor Who, Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, I should have said, is available on all these places: Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Podbean,
It's everywhere.
And it's even up on YouTube itself now on the Fandom Podcast Network's own YouTube channel. The most recent episodes are up on there, and you'll find links in the description here too. As I said, yes, guys, that was exhausting. And the final word, my final word on this episode and the Jodie Whittaker era. Woo! Oh, what have we got here?
Always a pleasure with the chat.
Yes,
Oh, Starry.
We're going to get you back on soon when you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Well, I think that's about it, guys. Yeah, thanks
for showing up, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you very much, everyone. Great.
Like, subscribe, share. Yes. Bye-bye.